know, I'm always glad when the floating is over with, because it really is hard work. And you can see over here that this portion of the bed has dried. And over here I've taken off this float strip, and you can see how nice and parallel the bed is to the wall. Once again, I've put back in the layout lines, so I'll know where to set the tile. And then over here in the countertop area, this bed hasn't dried as much as that has, and it's still a little wet and a little bit darker. Now, I floated this using the same basic techniques over here with just a few variations. Like on the face of this pony wall here, I've nailed a straight edge to act as a screeding guide. Now, to make sure that the inner and outer faces of this wall are parallel, I take this dimension here, transfer it back here to the top of the short straight edge, or the short float strip, plumb that in place, and that'll enable me to float and screed this area off. To get the back wall floated, the first thing I do is bridge off this wall with the straight edge to the top of this float strip, plumb it with the level, then take the dimension from front to back, transfer it over to this side of the countertop, set the bottom of the float strip, and then plumb it with a level. Then I can screed it off. Now, to actually start setting tile, I'm going to wet this wall down a little bit. I don't want the dryness of the wall to suck all the moisture out of the thinset. And I don't want a whole lot of excess moisture either. Now, it's important when you're starting off to not bite off more than you can chew. That's why I usually divide a wall like this into little sections. Once I get up into this big section here, I'll go into the details of spreading thinset. But for now, I just want to get this section started. It's actually a little bit too cramped to really show you anything. Now, when I set my first tiles in place, it's not important that I get everything micrometer close. The main concern here is to get them situated on the thinset. That way the thinset won't dry out underneath. Now, I think I can get one fit in here, but first I better get some spacers. I want to slip a little wedge in the bottom. You don't want to have the tile sitting directly on the tub, because when we're all through here, we're going to come in with a little bead of caulk. Now, finally, we have one tile set in place. Now we'll see if another tile will fit in without any biting, and it looks like it will. Remember, the tub slopes downhill a little bit. I think I can get a few more in here without having to bite any of them. Now, once again, it's not important that we get these things dead level. You want to get as close as you can to the line. But it doesn't have to be precise, not at this moment. Now, we have all these tiles positioned and spaced and shimmed up, but what we want to look for is the relationship between the bottom of the straight edge and the line here. Okay, you can see here this side needs to come up a little bit. And since these wedges are already making contact with the wall, I'm going to double them up. Okay, now we're up to the line, and by reading this space across here, we'll know how far up these tiles have to be pushed.
With this panel in place, we can move to the next section and determine which tiles need to be trimmed.
See, I'm real tight and real close. What you want to do is you want to rest the pen on the tub and use it as a guide. Put a mark about 1/16 of an inch up on the tile. Now, if you want to ensure that you have the mark in the right place and the tile in the right position, slip a spacer in there. Now, put your pen on the mark, and with it resting on the tub, you just bring it right across. Okay, you can see that's just a little tiny taper. Now the biters that I use have a curved jaw right here and a straight jaw. The curved jaw bites into the bisque and the flat jaw makes contact with the glaze. And I usually don't like to use the full width of the biters to bite. You just bite. Squeeze the handles real smartly. Now you see what I'm doing here. I've actually got the lower portion of the biters in farther on the tile than the upper jaw. If they were to be directly on top of one another in relation to the tile, it would just pinch off material without cutting through the harder glaze. So to get a little bit more traction, I angle the biters back. And then once that mark disappears under the tile, you can stop biting. And now we have a nice even gap all the way across the bottom. And it's real important. You don't want the tiles to contact the tub, because when the tub expands, when you put hot water in it, the tiles don't. Fill that with caulk, the two can move against one another without the tub ripping the tiles off the wall. Now let's get another one in place. Okay, tap this one down in place. Okay, now we have a little problem. And what we're going to do is flip this tile over, because I can't get it underneath that spacer. So
I leave a 1/16 of an inch clearance at the bottom and make a mark at the top of the tile corresponding to the low point on the spacer. Then I flip the tile over and butt its edge up against the neighboring tile. This squares it up. Then, using the tub as a fence, I continue the mark along the bottom of the tile.
now in this tile we get to do something we didn't on the other one. Once again, I start hanging off the edge of the tile, and you notice I'm not biting the full width, just a portion of it. And as I approach the other side, I'll stop about here and then work from this side in. It's a good possibility if you keep going over to the end, the cut will go wild, right off the mark. And then we'll wipe. Okay, now this is about as far as we're going to go, because remember, we're going to have a little cove here. So for the time being, I'm going to stop here. Now, before I can get these in, I'm going to have to cut them on the snap cutter. And to do that, all I need to do is stick that one against the wall. Now, right there is where the end of this tile is. I'm going to need an 1/8 of an inch grout joint, then an 1/8 of an inch clearance right here. So this is the cut we need to make on the snap cutter.